Hi, and welcome to the Brisbane Professionals Podcast. This is a podcast brought to you by SMS Law, going through the legal secrets that will benefit you and your clients, as well as having a little bit of fun as we go. This podcast is designed to educate you on, number one, complicated legal terms that we will explain in an easy to understand manner. Two, to understand why you do things from a legal perspective in your business. And three, to help you develop a plan for the future success of your business. Our mission is to help empower small to medium-sized businesses around the world to get access to legal advice so that they can help build their communities and make the world a better place. Did you know that any business owner is on average 7 months away from losing everything? That is the average time that it takes from a successful business to fold when an aspect of their business is not set up correctly. This podcast is all about empowering you and your business with knowledge and tools to ensure that that doesn't happen to you or to your clients. Let's begin, shall we?
Hi everyone, and welcome to the Brisbane Professionals Podcast. My name is Craig Mason, and I have with me Mr. Jeremy Stretton. Say hello to everyone, please, Jeremy.
Hi everyone, and hello to you too, Craig.
Thank you. Today on the show, we wanted to talk about structuring. This is when you're starting a business, or you might be altering your structure in some way throughout your business life cycle. So it's important to consider your structure. So we've wanted to talk about today some questions you need to be asking yourself when you're considering your structure and how you're going to structure your business going forward. So Jeremy, what was the first question that we came up with that you need to ask yourself?
It's a great question that you asked, Craig. So thank you for that. But also, it's the question that you need to ask before you really do anything in any businesses. What are you trying to achieve? And really getting to the end of what it is that you want to that you want to achieve is where you'll get the best returns. So, I like to think of starting up with the end in mind is Stephen Covey's phrase. I like to think of it as start up with an end in mind, because you never know what the end will be, and a lot of people use that as an excuse not to do it. But if you start with an end in mind, having some idea about where you're going, then that'll help you to really set up properly and set your structure up properly. So that's the first one, Craig. What about the second one?
Yeah, absolutely. So the second one we wanted to touch on today is just asking and looking at and investigating what other structures you have in place. So it's important to be aware of those when you're setting up a new one, obviously. You don't want to set up a structure that contradicts something else that's there, or you might be unnecessarily setting up a structure that you already have in place, those sorts of things. This is where you need to also sit down with your accountant and your other advisors just to double check what you've got there. And you might be surprised. You might have something that's suitable, or you might have been looking at one structure and then realizing that because of other things you've got in place, it mightn't fit as well as another one. So very important to look at what other structures you have in place before you set up the new structure. Jeremy, what about the third question we have for today's show?
Yeah, so the third question is, do you have a family? So if you've got a spouse or kids or a partner, you've got to think about, what's their involvement in the business going to be, and what's their entitlement to income and the capital of the business. So if you've got a family, there's a very different types of structures that you can use, or if you're starting a family, there's different types of structures that you can use to help tax plan effectively, not tax evasion, just tax planning, or tax, just making sure that you pay the right amount of tax. So do you have a family is the third one. So Craig, what's the fourth and final one?
The fourth one is just thinking about when you're setting up your structure, exactly what type of business you're going to be operating. Depending on what it is, there might be certain restrictions on the structure you can have in place, or there could be a structure that's more advantageous for that particular business. Might be a sort of a smaller type business that you're thinking of starting, and that's where a sole trader may be more relevant, or you are thinking that you'll expand quickly, bring in other shareholders and directors and those sorts of things, then you'd definitely be looking at a company structure. So it's really thinking about what type of business you're going to operate, and considering then the structure that best suits that type of business. So all of these things we've spoken about today are important considerations for thinking of your structure. And as we've said, it's imperative to look at these things before you go and get the structures set up. to make sure you've considered all the relevant things. Jeremy, is there anything else you want to touch on in relation to considerations for your structure?
No, I loved and just reiterating what you said, and that's make sure you're talking to your professional advisors about all of this stuff to make sure you get the right advice.
Yeah, we might seem to harp on about that in this podcast, but we know it's pretty important that you speak to your advisors. You have them there for a reason. You want a team that you can trust, where you can speak to them about these sorts of things before you go down a path and spend some money or waste some time. So get your advisors involved. All right, thank you for joining us for today's show. Please, if you can, rate and review the podcast wherever it is that you're receiving it. All 5-star reviews and any other comments you want to make are appreciated. Please like us on, this is SMS Law on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter or search for our individual profiles on LinkedIn and connect to us through those platforms. We do release other information and do get involved in social media, so please jump on and join the community. All right, that is it for us today, Jeremy.
See you next week.